Yeah, beat your addiction, live free. Ralf Friedrichs is who you see. Listen in when you're feeling low. Take back your life, today's show. Beat your addiction, live free. Ralf Friedrichs is who you see. Listen in when you're feeling low. Take back your life, today's show. Stay positive, hope, and keep faith. Stand strong against any odds that you face. Put away the alcohol and the drugs. Fill your time with the things you love. Addiction is tough, but it's worth the work. Treat your body what it's worth. Spread positivity, inspire all. If we stand together, we will never fall. I help others see the other sides to life. A sober life, letting go of the strife. So give me a call, I can help. 1-844-4405-HELP. Homeless shelters, hospitals, jails, wherever you are. I am Ralf Friedrichs and I am here for you. 1-844-405-HELP. Change your future, starts today. Live life to the fullest, never skip a day. Create hope, spread positivity. Beat your addictions and negativity. Ralf Friedrichs is here for you. Call today so we can help you. 1-844-405-HELP. 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 We are here for you. Call us today.
Hello, my name is Ralf Friedrichs. I'm an addiction recovery coach and the host of the Take Your Life Back Today show. As an addiction recovery coach, I want to share something with you, and let me be crystal clear to leave an everlasting impact upon you. Just imagine being buried alive. You're in a coffin, but you know you're not dead. You don't know how to get out of that coffin. You try lifting the lid, but the enormous weight upon the lid prevents you from opening the lid. You then try to bang on the lid to unsettle the dirt. Maybe somebody else start digging their way down towards you. This is what it's like to find yourself at the lowest point of alcohol and drug addiction. You know you need help, you know you can't do it on your own, but you don't know where to turn for help. In reality, there are people standing by your grave. You just don't know that. You just think you're going to die. Usually, though, people don't think about death when you're habitually abusing drugs and alcohol. In order to feed an addiction, you have to be great at repressing the fear of death. I often ask you, my audience, did it ever cross your mind that while you were abusing drugs and alcohol, that you'll take something away that God more or less lent you, which is called life? By abusing drugs and alcohol, you risk the fact that you might overdose. And if that isn't selfish enough, what about taking your life away from the people that love and count on you most? People like your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, your children, and your grandchildren. With this, let me leave one last thought with you. Don't be like the person I'm reading about on these index cards that waited and waited until it was too late. Instead, be the person that picks up the phone and calls me at 844-405-HELP, and I promise you I will help you take your life back. For your life is gone. Folks, people like Larry Geis, he's also an addiction recovery coach, a life coach. He and I always tell people like you, it doesn't matter where you came from, it doesn't matter where you've been. What matters is that you're here looking for help for a brighter tomorrow. Larry Geis from the Geis Academy can be found at www.odysseyconsultant.org. You can call him at 516-458-2741. Larry will take you from your addiction to your recovery, from your depression to happier times, from low self-esteem to raise your self-esteem. Larry Geis has over 30 years experience. Get a hold of him at 516-458-2741. Folks, I always want to bring this up. It's called knee mail. That's K-N-E-E mail. And what that is that when we go to bed at night, we always take our slippers off and we leave them by the edge of the bed. Well, starting today, I'm going to ask you to take your slippers and stick them all the way under your bed. In the morning, when God allows you and gives you another day to wake up, go and retrieve the slippers, look under your bed, and go and get them. And then while you're on your knees, give a shout out to God. Ask God for guidance and direction, for forgiveness and mercy. Thank God for another day that He's allowing you to be on this earth. This is God's creation. Do you see this behind me? See that water? See the waterfall? There's someone out there that doesn't have the opportunity to wake up in the morning. Give God a shout out. I call it knee mail. Thank God for the home you have, for the family, and the clothing and the food. If you do this every night, putting your slippers under the bed, and every morning to retrieve those slippers, you'll have a time and a place for your personal knee mail to God. And you'll see that your days become better, brighter, and happier. Put on your slippers now after you gave out your personal knee mail to God and walk with God 24/7. Knee mail. Put on those slippers in the morning and pray to God and walk with God. I want to talk about the numbers behind the heroin epidemic. They've been absolutely tremendous. This is really a guide to the drug spread and impact on America's heroin. The epidemic represents a new phase in the war on drugs. As Catherine Q. Seal reports, heroin deaths have surged mostly among whites in the suburbs, I should say, and small towns across the United States of America. The parents of those who have overdosed have also successfully pushed for a more forgiving approach to addiction, a stark contrast from the response to crack and cocaine in the 80s and 90s. Here, I want to report the full story. Did you know that 39% sharp rise in heroin-related deaths jumped from the previous couple years? In 2012 to 2013, the heroin deaths have increased by 39%, and this is up from 2002 to 2012. The rate of heroin-related overdose deaths nearly quadrupled, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. 90% of first-time heroin users are white. Researchers have found that prior to the 1980s, whites and non-whites were equally represented among first-time heroin users, but that has changed as heroin use has expanded across other parts of the country. Now, nearly 90% of all people who tried heroin for the first time in the past decade were white, and a growing number are middle class or wealthy people. In July of last year, the CDC found significant increases in heroin use and found that in groups that historically had low rates before, including women and people with private insurance and higher incomes, have increased by 4 times. The gaps between men and women, lower and higher incomes, and people with Medicaid and private insurance have narrowed in the past decade. 75% of heroin addicts use prescription opiates before turning to heroin. 3 out of 4 heroin addicts started off by using prescription drugs, according to a recent survey, which is part of a growing body of evidence that many of today's heroin users are shifting from prescription pill addiction to heroin, including the older people, because they cannot afford the prescription drugs prescribed by doctors, so they turn to heroin to relieve their pain. The CDC reports that 45% of people who used heroin between 2011 and 2013 were also addicted to prescription painkillers. People who are dependent on prescription opiates are 40 times more likely to abuse dependent and be dependent on heroin, according to the CDC. 325 opiate-related deaths just in New Hampshire last year. New Hampshire has taken over. I mean, Long Island is pretty high too, but New Hampshire really, has been really bad. If you remember the primary presidential race, every candidate talked about the heroin usage in New Hampshire. Opiate deaths were up 76% in New Hampshire in 2014, with 325 people dying from opiate overdose, according to state figures. Emergency room visits from heroin have more than tripled since 2013 in the same location, New Hampshire. In Massachusetts, opiate deaths rose 20% in 2014 and are up 63% over 2012. The Boston Globe reported while Maine has seen heroin-related deaths surge as well, in Vermont, Governor Peter Sumlin declared the state to be in a full-blown heroin crisis. Nationally, deaths from heroin rose to 8,260 from 2013. $133 million in federal funds will combat the epidemic in response to the surge in heroin use. President Obama traveled this month to West Virginia to discuss his $133 million proposal to fight drug addiction by expanding access for drug treatment and prevention programs throughout the country. Some law enforcement experts and African American leaders have expressed frustration with the fact that there seems to be more tolerance and sensitivity for drugs once they move into white communities. This is not a new problem. We all know that. said Mark Maurer, executive director for the Sentencing Project, which examines racial issues in the criminal justice system. Go back about 100 years on race and drug war. Look at marijuana. In the 1930s, marijuana was demonized, and the popular image of it was used by racy parts of town where blacks or Mexican Americans went. That was a perception. Then, in 1960s, millions of largely white middle-class college students started consuming enormous quantities of marijuana, and the perceptions changed almost overnight. 71 new cases of HIV reported in the state of Indiana. As heroin use has soared there as well, a raft of new HIV and hepatitis outbreaks have happened this year in states like Indiana, Kentucky, and West Virginia. In March, the Indiana Governor Mike Pence, now a VP contender, declared a state of emergency over the state's HIV outbreak, with 71 cases reported between December and March in Scott County alone, north of Louisville. All of them linked to the use of intravenous drugs. Hepatitis C cases have been increasing in Maine, Missouri, and large parts of the Appalachia. 50% increase in Mexico's opium production last year alone. Officials in Mexico and the United States say that Mexican opium production rose an estimated 50% just in the year 2014, thanks in part to voracious American appetite for heroin. It is all part of a global search. As the New York Times reported last June, the United Nations annual World Drug Report found that Afghanistan's poppy field expanded by 36% from 2012 to 2013. Overall, global poppy cultivation hit its high level in the 1930s. The United Nations report found, suggesting that today's heroin epidemic will continue and will rise unless we all get together and do something about it. Yesterday I did a show on the proven fact that heroin on Long Island has surged tremendously in the 10 years, and it's not just isolated to Long Island. It has globally, not just the United States, but globally surged. As I stated once before, that the senior citizens, they are turning to heroin because it's cheaper to kill their pain than getting prescription drugs or prescription painkillers, because a lot of the senior citizens only have Medicare. And Medicare only covers 80% and only certain times. So what do? They turn to heroin. We need to educate our youngsters. We need to educate even our elders to keep away from heroin, because heroin will kill. I just gave you statistics. I can tell you there has been a tremendous surge throughout the whole world in heroin usage. It is now time to make changes in your life. Reach out to me at 844-405-HELP, and I promise you I will help you take your life back. I will help you get help by looking around for whatever's best fitted for your crisis. But you need to make that phone call, 844-405-HELP, and together you and I will help you take your life back before your life is gone. And may God bless you.
Have you ever prayed but never got an answer, and wondered if God was really there? Did you feel all hope was gone, but in His time He came along and answered the prayer you thought was gone? There is no prayer too small, for God hears them all. The answer may not be just what you want, but He always knows what's right, even when we think it's wrong. Just remember, there is no prayer you shall receive. No matter what it is, I still believe. There is no prayer too small, and even when we fall, He gives us just exactly what we need. There is no prayer too small, for God hears them all. The answer may not be just what you want, but He always knows what's right, even when we think it's wrong. Just remember, there is no prayer too small. No prayer too small. He always knows what's right. God hears them all. There is no prayer too small. My God hears them all. The answer may not be just what you want, but He always knows what's right, even when we think it's wrong. Just remember, there is no prayer too small. No prayer too small. No prayer too small. God hears them all.
Yeah, change your future, it starts today. Live life to the fullest, never skip a day. Create hope, spread positivity. Beat your addictions and negativity. Ralf Friedrichs is here for you. Call today so we can help you. 1-844-405-HELP. 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 We are here for you. Call us today. The show is over, but your life starts today. Taking back your life's the only way. Keep faith, stay positive, push through. Take back your life, it starts with you. Alcohol and drugs can't control your life. Let go of the negative and the strife. Ralf Friedrichs is the man guiding your way. The show is over, but your life starts today. Call Ralf Friedrichs at 1-844-405-HELP. That's 1-844-405-HELP. We hope you love the show today and tune in next time. Take back your life today show with Ralf Friedrichs.